This is actually a pretty good day for the Baltimore Ravens. You're talking about a Ravens organization that finally was able to pay Lamar Jackson. There was a lot more rumors that the Ravens could trade him away, and that would, in my opinion, that would have been a terrible mistake. But they finally got it done. 5 years, $260 million. I think 150 million is fully guaranteed, which is which I think is the most by a quarterback as far as fully guaranteed money. And that is a big deal for Lamar Jackson. That's a great deal for Lamar Jackson. And I think the biggest question is, well, now that you finally got your franchise quarterback and that you can sustain that for at least another 5 years, can you finally provide this man with weapons? Because that's kind of one of the biggest criticisms about the Ravens organization has been the amount of weapons that they've been able to give Lamar Jackson. They really haven't been able to do that. Now they kind of tried. They tried to get him Rashad Bateman in the first round, and I still think he adds a lot of value to your team. But for the most part, I mean, they tried to get Sammy Watkins. They had some other guys, some other dudes that here and there. But for the most part, the Ravens organization, when it came to weapons, I mean, Marquise Hollywood Brown, I think they got in the first round, hasn't really panned out. Was kind of more of a number 2 receiver that tried to fill in a number 1 receiver's body. They've tried. And it really hasn't panned out for their organization well for not just for Lamar Jackson, but for the Ravens organization as a whole, because a lot of their first-round receivers are now gone. So they've tried to do it this time by getting Zay Flowers. And I think this could potentially work. Could this potentially work? Maybe. I think it could work. But now you kind of get a player like Odell Beckham Jr. that when he's fully healthy could be one of the best receivers in the National Football League. You now have Mark Andrews, and now, again, Zay Flowers adds into that mix up with Rashad Bateman still being there, who I just talked about can add some value to you. Now, all of a sudden, this Ravens organization is starting to get it going a little bit. And I do believe, and again, Ravens fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe Devin Duvernay is still there at the Ravens organization. I don't know if he's there or not. I'm just going to assume he is. But if Devin Duvernay is there, now all of a sudden you add some flexibility to your roster as far as the receiving position. Now all of a sudden, you went from having, okay, you know what, can you get Lamar Jackson some weapons? Can you provide him with some help? To now it's saying, you know what, Lamar, maybe this could be it. Maybe that this is finally time now where Lamar Jackson finally has what Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, right, that Jalen Hurts has, which are top weapons. Something that Lamar hasn't really had throughout his career. And by getting a guy like Zay Flowers, who's a speedster, run after the catch, is probably the best receiver probably in this draft class, maybe with him and Nathaniel Dell, but you love his speed, you love the ability for him to go vertically, you love what he does after the catch. Now, some Ravens fans are going to be optimistic because they take a look at his size and they say, is that Marquise Hollywood Brown? Did we just get a Marquise Hollywood Brown? And I would just tell you, even if you do get another version of Hollywood Brown, I think a lot of people forget, it's not like Hollywood Brown was a bad receiver with the Ravens. He was their number 1 receiver for a reason. There wasn't anybody else. And when he was there, he was pretty productive. So worst case scenario, if he does turn out to be a Hollywood Brown, you get a number 2 receiver paired with Odell Beckham Jr. and then Mark Andrews in the slot. And then Rashad Bateman can work from that. And then again, the Ravens organization could still get some more weapons for you in this draft to still pair off with Lamar Jackson and the rest of this Ravens offense. You're still going to have a top running game. You're still going to have a top offensive line. This is, in my opinion, this is it for Lamar Jackson. I feel like this could be it for Lamar. And this is going to be a year where if he can't get the job done, there's no excuses. The excuse has been, well, he doesn't have the weapons. Well, now it looks like Lamar Jackson finally is starting to accumulate those weapons. That this organization is starting to give him those weapons now that they fully got him that money. And I feel like if you are going to pay a quarterback that much money, you kind of have no choice but to surround him with as many weapons as possible. Because if you don't, you'll end up making it to a wild card or a divisional round, and you'll end up just bouncing and going back home. The difference between a lot of the top teams is that they've been able to surround themselves with weapons, and it seems like the Ravens organization is starting to do that by getting a player like Zay Flowers.